Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tailosive EV live on YouTube. Very excited to be streaming for you today. I actually missed last week's live stream because I was picking up the car. Luckily, no one caught up on that. But I actually have, let's see if this works. With Tesla Theater, yeah, I have the chat going on the Tesla screen. So I can read my notes, manage OBS on my laptop while reading the chat on the Model 3 display, which is awesome. I've been doing some stream tests. I apologize if the live stream gets choppy. The last couple times I've live streamed from within the car, it seemed to work fine and it was stable. But oftentimes you test something and when you're doing it privately, it works fine. And then you do it for the public and the computer freaks out. So I apologize in advance if there's any bitrate issues. But yeah, basically, long story short, I ran a poll for our channel members because I was like, I have so many different videos about Model 3 ownership that I want to dive into. And I asked the community members what they thought I should talk about first on this long list of ideas, and they actually voted for talking about things I don't like first, which kind of surprised me. I kind of threw that in there at the last second because I was like, well, I want everyone to have a voice. I want there to be options. And surprisingly, that won the poll, but I agree with a lot of you. It felt soon, and I wasn't really expecting that to win the poll, but I guess, you know, play with the bear, which legalized comedy has on his street. You play with the bear, you get the claws? No, they play with the bull. That's what it is. Sorry. I'm just excited because while yes, there are some things I don't like, and I agree that no car is perfect and all cars have little quirks and things to get used to, I didn't want people thinking, like Dirty Tesla said on Twitter, that I was going straight towards Tesla Q just after a few days of ownership. Like, I really do love the car, and just because I wanted to honor my audience members, I did talk about things I didn't like first, but now that gives me a great opportunity to now dive into things I love. And as you can tell by the title of this stream, there's absolutely way more things I like about the car than things I don't like, and I thought, frankly, that I was being a lot nicer because a lot of my video was talking about how I love this thing, but I wish it could do a little bit more, or I love this feature and I wish they would, like, I love the self-opening trunk, so I wish there could also be a front. So it was like things I don't like, but constantly filled with other things that I do like about it. And simultaneously, I have a huge list of things to get through today that I'm not sure we'll have enough time. Hopefully we do. But I did write it out. I do actually have a long list that we're going to be going through. It's the Q's new mouthpiece. Yes, I want a self-opening frunk. That means you're a short seller. That's how it works. I thought it was a pretty good video. Gives me some insights on what to maybe expect with the Cybertruck. Yeah, I hope it did as well. I was mostly happy with a lot of the comments. I think a lot of people took it the wrong way. Like, from what I've experienced in the automotive field, especially with Tesla, there's a lot of people that are convinced that everything is bad or nothing is bad. And the community tends to give you a lot of backlash whenever you try to agree that a company may not be perfect or a product isn't perfect. You can still love a product and you can still enjoy a bunch of things about it and still admit that there's some flaws, and I think that's just human. I think that's just natural, and I actually think it's healthy to admit that a product that you've hyped up a lot and, you know, talked a lot about, and of course I'll be diving into things I love, it does have its own set of issues, and there were people saying things that just simply weren't true. I mean, for one, they were telling me that I was spreading misinformation for saying that you can use Autopilot off of the highway. First of all, I looked through Tesla's website, I looked through the auto steer code on the car. Nowhere does it say Autopilot is only to be used on the highway. Tesla doesn't say that on their website. Auto steer settings do not say that. And for the record, even though it's had its fair share of issues and I've seen Autopilot perform poorly, I still use it off the freeway quite a bit. And there's many areas where it performs great. And my wife is even happy with it. Like, just driving through town when there's long stretches of straight road, and there's usually a lot of cars. They're not highways, but Autopilot still performs great, and yet there were a lot of people saying, Drew, you're supposed to only use it on the freeway. You can't use it off the freeway. And there were also a bunch of people telling me in the comments that the back seat, the rear passengers do have a manual override, and that's literally not true. I literally got like 5 or 6 comments that were getting lots of upvotes saying, Drew, you should have read your owner's manual. There is a manual release in the back. I'm like, look it up. It's not there. Like, it says that in the, like, that's a Model Y thing, that's a SNX thing, but it's not on the Model 3. And so there were a bunch of people blaming me for not knowing the car, even though they didn't actually know the car themselves. So anyway, funny reactions. I got quite a kick out of a lot of the comments, but yeah, as 15 was about the most I could think of for things I didn't like. I could probably go over 100. Fizzwizzle's like, only 100 things, you could do better. I was tempted to go to 150. That way I could say there's 10 times as many things I like for every one thing I don't like, but I ran out of time. So the 100 is what, if there's anything I miss, do let me know, because I think I covered just about everything, but the more I sit and think, the more I can probably come up with. So this might be a longer stream, and I'll do my best to kind of keep up with the chat. Jasmine's asking why Apple and Tesla don't like each other. I'm confused with that as well. You know, like, I think it's because Apple has poached a lot of Tesla employees. Elon's been pretty upfront about that. Like, many former Tesla employees go and work at Apple and work on the Project Titan car project, which never materialized into anything. But I still think that the companies have a lot of design similarities and focus on software and trying to get more things virtual and less things physical. You know, Apple kind of pioneered that with the iPhone. It wasn't that common to have a multi-touch all-screen display on your phone back then. That was still in the time where Blackberries and physical keyboards were looked at as selling points, and the iPhone was mocked for not having a physical keyboard by Motorola and by many other companies that were like, hey, we still have a keyboard, that's better. So in that regard, Tesla, I think, kind of stole a lot of Apple's thunder, because I think the Model 3, like, I just showed off the car a couple days ago to my best friend who had never sat in a Tesla, only had really seen them on the road, and he sat in the car. And he's not really an EV fan per se. Like, he likes the concept, but he likes working on his cars. He's not like against EVs coming. Like, he knows that they're the future, and he accepts that. He just says that, you know, he would never spend more than like $5,000 to $10,000 on a car. And he likes working on his car. He likes being able to tear apart engines and work on stuff like that. And he said in the car, and the very first thing he said was, "This looks like an Apple product." And I think that says a lot about why I like it. But oh my God, I've been streaming for almost 10 minutes and I haven't even started this list yet. I went on a test drive and they had me use Autopilot on a regular road. See, there you go. I don't understand where that concept is coming from of people saying Autopilot is only for highways. Literally, Tesla and Elon, they've never said that. And also, if they believed that, Tesla could easily only let Autopilot work on highways. It has map data. It has, it can monitor your speed. It could just know that, all right, Autopilot doesn't work under, say, 50 miles an hour. If you're on, well, at least the speed limit. If you're in a zone where the speed limit is 40 or less, it could just not turn on Autopilot. But it lets you turn on Autopilot when the speed limit's 25. And there's many situations where it works great. I actually plan on subscribing to, if all goes according to plan, which plans might be changing actually. We're kind of waiting to hear back from some people. But if all goes according to plan, I plan on subscribing to Full Self-Driving tomorrow. And I'll kind of document that experience and how it goes. Cam says, I use Autopilot all the time on regular roads, usually without auto steer though. Oh, well, that counts as cruise control. I don't think that counts as Autopilot. Benji asks if the car insurance is higher on the Model 3. Yes, but we were expecting that. I guess I haven't done a whole video on my insurance, but it's through Tesla. And I should really dive into this. But basically, we had extremely cheap car insurance on our Sonata because the Sonata is worthless. It's not worth very much. So it was very cheap to insure. This car is worth like over 10 times. I want to say this car is worth like 15 times as much as our Sonata, so we expected the insurance to go up, but thankfully we were kind of expecting it to be around 100 to 110 bucks a month, and thanks to Tesla Insurance letting us customize exactly what we want to be covered for, and it's definitely covering a lot of liability, but not so much, it wasn't like the suggested rate. The suggested rate was pretty high, but we worked our way down so that, we can have a slightly higher deductible if it means that the lower monthly. So basically it's twice the price. So our old Sonata was about $40 a month to insure. The Tesla is now $80 a month to insure. We were expecting it to be over 100, so the fact that we got it for 80 is actually a pleasant surprise. Donkey says Autopilot works everywhere for me. It's the best. Yeah, I'm very happy with it. It mostly works even off the freeway. There's just a few instances where it's dumb. And I know that it doesn't have to be done because I've seen how FSD beta performs. And I think you could bring a lot of the FSD beta performance to Autopilot without, cannibalizing the sales or something. But I guess maybe Tesla wants us all to get FSD, so that's why they don't improve Autopilot. Congratulations on the Tesla, presuming it's the LFP battery. Yes, well, there's not an LFP Tesla that goes over 300 miles on a charge. The range of this car at fully charged is around 270, but it is lithium iron phosphate, which means, yes, you can charge it to 100% every day if you want to. I'm currently not, but that's just because I'm not driving all that frequently. Donkey says $80 a month isn't bad at all. No, I was very happy with it. Our deductibles are kind of high. I might go over that in a future video, but it's one of those things where it's like, I'd rather my insurance go up. Plus, the other thing that helped is we don't use it for commuting. So when they ask you what you use the car for, our yearly mileage is pretty low. So having the mileage set, I forget what it's at, but like, because we're not driving huge distances that frequently, we put it to like 8,000 miles a year. And I've read about this. If you go over that, the car knows, and then it'll increase your insurance premium. But in the meantime, you get cheaper rates. So it's like, okay, if we go over 8,000 miles, then we'll pay more for insurance. But until then, we'll be paying a lower rate. So it's still money saved. But basically, I saw a guy online that was like, I had it set to a certain amount, and then the car surpassed it, and my insurance went up by like $15 a month. So it might go higher if we end up going over 8,000, but honestly, with our current driving habits, I don't think we will. 278 bad, in real world 270 is great. Tesla advertises 308 in the UK. Oh, I got you. See, I'm confused because the United Kingdom uses both imperial and metric at the same time. But thank you, random bloke. Been watching you for years. I appreciate that. Here in Ontario, insurance is insane. My 2013 Mazda 3 hatchback cost me $280 a month. Oof! Oh my God. 280? That's crazy. That's insane. All right. I think I'm caught up with the chat. I'm ready to start the list. So I've already burned the first 12 minutes of the show. I better step on this. I'm probably not going to spend as much time on each thing, which kind of makes sense. You know, the 15 things you don't like, you kind of have time to explain, like, here's something I don't like, and here's why I don't like it, and I wish it was different. With something you like, there's really not that much to explain. It's just like, I like it. It's good. Good job. Well done. So that's why I think I can get through the 100 faster than I got through the 15. So number one, we're starting with the exterior. I love the way the outside of the car looks. If we're just like walking up to the car in a parking lot, it's a beautiful design. And I think that they got the overall like vibe down, you know, like it's not too aggressive. It's not too, in my opinion, it's not too dorky. Like, it's a sleek design. It's sexy looking. It lives up to the lineup name. And I enjoy looking at it. Like, when it's just parked in a parking lot and we're talking with someone or we're inside looking at the car outside, I love just admiring it. I think it's a really cool look. So if we're just talking purely aesthetics, after looking at the Model 3 and seeing so many Model Ys on the road, I used to not feel this way, but I'm starting to come around on, I think the Model 3 looks a bit better than the Model Y. And when I ran polls on it, most people agreed with me. It's just a little sleeker. It's a little closer to the ground. So just purely from the visual standpoint, number one, it looks awesome. Secondly, the glass roof. Not only is this a huge safety advantage, it also is one of the first things people bring up whenever I've had probably 10 or 12 people, family and friends, get in the car now. And that's almost the first thing people bring up. I love being able to look what's going on above us. It's kind of cool to see your reflection. You're like, whoa, oh my God, there's a fat guy. He's going to fall on me. No, but the UV protection is good. It's not too bright. But I know that it's much stronger than the body roof that we had on our old car, which a lot of the time, if you look at old body color roofs, if you just like barely stand on the top of your car, it warps a lot. Or if you, even with your one hand, you can apply pressure to the top of your roof on a standard body roof car, and it's like boom, 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 boom. It's not very strong, and this has been tested to hold like 4 times the vehicle's weight or something. I've seen these videos of other cars that are literally sitting on top of your Tesla. So the glass roof is just a really good look. It's very expansive. I've been in other cars with glass roofs like the Mach-E, the ID4, and the Rivian. And while they also have glass roofs, there's a lot more like bezel. The fact that they got these columns so thin in that you get so much more visible space. It's just such a clean look. And I think it's a very simple addition, but it makes the interior feel much more open. It's a lot less claustrophobic. And even though this car interior, this overall car, I think is smaller than the Sonata, the interior still feels larger, which is awesome. So number 2, glass roof. Number 3, if we're talking about exterior, the door handles. A lot of people don't like Tesla door handles. I think it's this perfect little preview. Whenever someone like comes up to the Tesla, they get to know like, oh, this is something different. You know, like it's not a typical average door handle. You got to know like, how do I get in the car? And I know that some people may not like that, but I think for one that it helps a lot with the efficiency. It's just very seamless. Like it doesn't protrude. It's just a very clean surface across the whole door frame. And it's just such a simple rotation that you can just push inward and pull. And yet it's so iconic. It's so different from every other door handle I've ever seen. It stands out, and I think it's a very simple thing that lets your passengers and your family and friends know you're getting into a car that's different. This car is not the norm. This is not your typical vehicle. And it's a very simple thing that makes it stand out a lot. So number 3 is the door handles on the outside. I love it. Number 4 is the aerodynamics. Not only does the exterior look really cool, but this also ties in with the door handle design. It's a very low drag coefficient, and you get such a low front, which helps with visibility. I complained a bit in my last video about the mirrors and stuff, but as far as the front is going, you can see right in front of you very easily, which I love. And that low profile design helps the air just swoop over the back, and it's a very clean look that helps with your efficiency, of course. So I love that it's aerodynamic, and I love that they had an emphasis on that when they designed the vehicle, because with EVs, that plays a major role. Number 5 is the Matrix headlights as well. The fact that they get really bright for one, but also just the exterior look of the headlight is really stealthy looking / impressive looking. And I know that the software doesn't currently allow for it, but I absolutely love the fact that in the future, because this is now legal in the US, they could update them so that they're adaptive and they kind of mask out cars coming or passengers so that you don't blind people, but you can kind of have your high beams on at all times. So I'm very grateful I got a car with the Matrix headlights. That's number 5. Number 6, there's a few things on the list of things that the Tesla doesn't do, but I almost think those are just as noteworthy as the things it does do. So number 6 is the fact that there's no grille, or at least a very, very small one at the bottom, but a lot of EVs these days are trying to accommodate for this fake grille so that it kind of blends in or it kind of looks similar to a gas car. I love that the Tesla Model 3 was designed like, we're not trying to carry over everything. We're not trying to make someone feel like it's similar to the gas car. They just went all in. And the fact that you have such a clean, simple, rounded off design on the front without a grille, to me, is really impressive. It also probably makes cleaning off bugs and stuff a lot easier than having stuff like our Sonata obviously is a gas car, so it has a grill, and trying to clean the bugs and stuff out of that is a lot more complicated as opposed to just having a flat surface that you can just scrub with. And I also think it's very iconic. It's kind of Porsche-esque, that front aspect of the design. Not having a grill there looks so much better than any fake grill I've ever seen. Pretty much the only fake grill that I thought looked pretty good was the Mach-E GT, but that's coming from a legacy automaker that's trying to get people. But the only thing is that they're still branding it as a Mustang. So they're trying to carry over Mustang fans, so maybe the fake grill makes a bit more sense there. But still, overall, I think EVs that don't have grills is way better than EVs that do have them. And I notice it every time I look at the car. It's just like, wow, that's so clean on the front. Number 7, the black trim. So this is something I'm also grateful I waited for. You know, we were very close. We were within like a month of buying a Model 3 back in 2019 before we pulled the plug. No pun intended. We pulled the plug on it and just said, you know what, I don't think we're ready yet. We wanted to prioritize some other investments at the moment, but thankfully we waited, and now we have this black trim along the door sills and on the door handles, and I think that's such a better look. It's so it contrasts so nicely with the white exterior, and I think that two-tone finish is a lot better than having that chrome, which was a bit more fingerprint-esque. And I just think that the reflective nature of the chrome didn't come out as simplistic and as minimal. And when you come inside the car, it definitely has that minimalistic theme going for it. And I think that the exterior matches better with the interior and with the what's it called? The undertones of the side view mirrors are also matte black. So that matte black look is really, really awesome. And I'm glad that we finally got a car and we didn't have to do the chrome delete. It's chrome deleted from the factory itself. Number 8 goes with the wheels. The 18-inch Aero wheels are very comfortable. I actually was surprised yesterday. A lot of people said that they were upset with the ride quality on their Teslas, that it felt a little bumpy. And typically when I asked them what tires they had the larger tires. If they had a Model 3, they had the sport wheels, and if they were complaining about their Model Y, they had the 20-inch induction wheels, which I've rode in Mike's Model Y, who has the 20-inch induction wheels, and I definitely notice it. You know, there's more sporty, and they're probably better at the track a bit, but there's a bit more of a jitter and kind of a shake when you go over bumps and potholes and stuff with the larger wheels. And I also just aesthetically think the 18-inch Aero wheels look fantastic. I've seen people that say they prefer the sport wheels, and I'm happy for you if you do, but I'm very grateful that my preferred wheel design is the free ones. I didn't have to pay extra to get the wheels I wanted. A lot of people don't like the Aero wheels. I love the functionality of them, the fact that they improve your range, they're not too big, and the ride comfort is very good. So I'm very happy with the 18-inch Aero wheels, just the overall look. There's not really any... I've looked at a few aftermarket hubcaps. None of them really, I think, look as clean or look as nice as the Aero wheels, but that's a personal preference thing. I know some people. I do kind of like the look of the Model 3 performance tires, but I know that they would hurt your efficiency, and I know that they would make the ride more stiff and a bit more bumpy. So I don't want to get the performance tires or anything. I've seen compromises where like they take the design of the Uber turbine wheels and condense them down to the 18-inch size. And I don't know, I've seen the aftermarket ones. They still don't look right to me. I think the only thing I really like about the performance tires is just they're so big, and that makes the Model 3 look a bit more aggressive to have those larger rims on the tires. But the larger tires, as cool as they look, I don't think they're more functional because they hurt your efficiency and they hurt the ride height. So I'm very happy with the wheels that came with this car, and I have no intention on changing the rims or anything. Oh, Mike here says, my Ram is much more cushier than the Model Y, and that's okay. Just means our EV crossover is more sporty. Yeah, see, Mike likes it. He embraces it. But I just think it's something that people probably should mention is like, sometimes on Tesla's website, you know, they'll accelerate your delivery if you get the larger tires. Or sometimes I've had family members or not quite family, friends, I guess you could say, that we've known for a long time, and they were speccing out their Model Y, and they just thought that the inductive wheels looked better, obviously, and I would agree. I don't think the Gemini wheels look as good, but I just like darker rims in general, I think. And the 20-inch inductive wheels they bought simply because they thought they looked cool, but then once they got the car, they were like, the ride height is, you know, it's kind of springy, you know, it's kind of sticky. And it wasn't as cushy, and they didn't realize that, oh, if you buy those bigger tires, it's going to eat into your efficiency, and it's a bit more bumpy. So that's just something to be aware of if you're spending the extra money on those tires. That's why I have no interest in upgrading the tires or changing the rims on them or anything. They're efficient, and they look good to me. Red Doc says the Uber turbine covers for the 18-inch are nice. I've seen them. They just, I don't know. They just, the Uber turbines, when they're small, don't look as aggressive, I guess. But like the Uber turbine design is trying to look aggressive, but when you condense it down, I don't know. It's like conflicting design philosophies or something for me. But I love the Aero wheels. You can take the off the hubcaps and you have nice rims under it. I know, I've seen that. There were Teslas at the delivery center that have it. I just personally, I know a lot of you may disagree with me on this. I think they look worse with the hubcaps off, personally. That's just having the bare metal and they're just kind of straight. Doesn't look as cool as just the swoosh, the kind of clean little wavy design of the Aero caps. I think they look better the way they were installed, and I don't want to take them off. Anyway, oh my God, I'm taking way too long. I'm only at number 8. Number 9, the charge port door is very simple. The fact that they integrate it within the brake pedal, you know, like on our Sonata. I'm sorry, a lot of people yesterday were commenting, don't compare it to your Sonata. That's the only car I've owned over the past, 6 years now. So I don't know. What do you want me to compare it to? A Bolt that I've never owned, or an ID4 that I drove once? Like, what do you want me to compare it to? I don't know, but with most gas cars, you have like the gas cap, and that's like its own separate panel. So you have a different level of gaps and all that. Whereas the charge port door is so cleanly integrated with the design, it doesn't interfere with everything. Kind of like, the Rivian charge port door, kind of convenient space, but it's very large and it has to move a lot in order to accommodate for the big plug. Whereas the Tesla charge port door is just this one little motion. It's just one little and it opens up. Very simple. And then when you're done charging it, it's just an elegant solution, and it's integrated with the exterior of the design so well. I haven't seen a charge port door better integrated. Like the new Model S and X, for the sake of design symmetry with other countries, they've made it like this giant brake light, and it's quite large. The whole opening is quite big, and it's probably bigger than it needs to be, but manufacturing wise, it simplifies things for when they build the Model S's and X's for international markets. So I'm very happy with the charge port door. I don't think I would have changed it if in any way, shape, or form. I think it's perfect. Number 10, charging plug intuitiveness. So yeah, like I think oh yeah, I remember. I'm talking about the charge port itself. One thing that I'm absolutely going to be really annoyed with, and I'm really going to miss if I ever buy an EV that's not a Tesla, which I'm not against the idea of. I don't think will happen anytime soon. Maybe the Aptera, but Aptera wants to get a Tesla connector. I just love how easy it is to hold. The Tesla charge plug is so simple. It's so small. It fits in your hand so nicely. And I want to, like, it's so easy to just grab and manipulate with one hand, and you just push in. When you're done, you just click the button and unplug. It's not this giant clunky CCS thing. And even the J1772 plug, I don't think is that elegant. It's not as small as the Tesla connector. And most of the time when you have other EVs, they have to put these flaps on top of the CCS connector. I love how basically the Tesla connector shape and size is almost equal to that of the cable. So it just feels like the cable just kind of ends. It's honestly not even that much bigger than a USB-C port. I mean, it's probably like, obviously it handles a lot more power. You probably put like 50 USB-C ports together and boom, you have a Tesla connector. So I'm very happy with the connector that this car came with, and that's something that kind of puts me off about all non-Teslas. Hey, thank you for the super chat, Option Command Media. He says, get a federal signal for your Tesla. A federal signal. I'm sorry. I appreciate the super chat, but I'm not exactly sure what that is. I'll have to look that up later. I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to many things that aren't tech related, and that sounds more government related. You took some older folks for a ride, right? Did you show them some of the fun Easter eggs? Yeah. I haven't taken it to my grandma yet, which I'm hoping. A few years ago, back when my friends rented a Turo, through Turo, they rented a Model 3. I took my grandma in it, and she got a kick out of it. And that video performed very well. People were, they enjoyed watching it because my grandma, she's currently 96 years old, and her first car was the first car, the Model T. So she remembers when she was a kid, the family bringing home a Model T, and then we got to drive her in a Model 3, and she was really happy with it. So I could just drive her in it again, obviously, but we've kind of already done that video. So what I think would be awesome is, after all these years, I could hopefully get the FSD beta. I'm not sure how quickly I'll be able to get it. Hopefully, as soon as possible, I'll be on the beta, and then I can show my grandma the car driving itself. And I think she would get, like, even more impressed with that. And she's doing very well. For 96 years old, she still lives by herself, and she doesn't need a walk or anything. She can walk everywhere all by herself. She's incredibly healthy for her age, and I love my grandma, so I hope she gets to enjoy it as well. And my other grandma, who's not quite as old, she's in her 80s, but she's never been in a Tesla before, and she's told me she really wants one. Oh, there's the other super chat. The Pac-Man police siren, a.k.a. Oh, I need a police siren. I'll get a siren for my car. That way I move faster in traffic. So anyway, number 10, that was the charge port. The charge cable itself is really, really well designed. Number 11, the auto opening trunk. That's amazing. I mentioned it in my last video. We didn't have it on our last car. And I know that's a pretty standard thing with a lot of new cars these days, but especially being able to open it from the app. Like, there's so many situations where, like, we're bringing groceries to the car, or I'm going to the car and I've got some boxes and I want the trunk to be open when I get there, so I don't have to let go of my cargo or let go of anything to open it. And the fact that it just opens all by itself and closes all by itself makes life so much easier. So I'm very happy with the auto opening trunk. That's number 11. I added a okay, Pac-Man police. No, I understood. I understood what you mean, but thank you for the super chat. Go Grandma. I don't agree with making Tesla plug US standard necessarily, but I think the car is easily the coolest car about to go on sale. Oh, I see. Your H2O is in favor of Aptera. Oh, they're not in favor. You think the Aptera is the coolest vehicle? Yes. As far as electric vehicle startups go, Aptera is also my favorite. I'm rooting for them. I really hope they make it to market. I think their product is insanely cool. It's weird to see a different standard to Teslas in the US. The main charger in Europe and even Tesla sold in Europe are all CCS. From experience, the chargers work as well as anything, but are bulky. Yeah, no, I know. In Europe, here's the stupid thing though. Europe uses a different CCS than the United States, and Asia uses a different connector than Europe does. So even though we call it CCS, there's CCS 1, and I believe Europe is using CCS 2. So even though it's referred to as the same thing, a lot of people's thought process was, well, the globe should all have one charge standard. That way, you know, if you bring a European Tesla over to the US, you can just charge it at any CCS station. The port's actually designed differently, even though it's referred to as CCS. So the idea that all the charge plugs are going to be the same, even if you imported a car from Europe to the US, unfortunately, we're long past that dream. As cool as that would be, it's just not going to happen. But we don't even have that with typical outlets in our houses. You know, the outlets and the voltage in my house is going to be different from the outlets and voltage in a European house. Let's see. Just Breed says, any issues with the build quality so far? Minor ones, but I need to get through this list. Nothing major. Number 12, massive storage space. So the trunk is really, really deep. With that extra cargo lid that you can open up. And I actually was helping my friend Ross do a time lapse the other night, and I drove him up to this really great, beautiful lookout area. And he had this giant backpack with his Red camera in it, and we fit that in the like sub trunk, and then we fit his tripod, and he also brought an RC plane to fly. And we could fit it all in the trunk, and it fit perfectly. And I was amazed because just there's a lot of space back there. And on top of that, number 13, the frunk. I've never had frunk storage before. It's definitely much bigger than the frunk you would find in an ID4, which doesn't have one, or even the Ioniq 5, which technically has one, but it's very small. So I used it just the other day. I was shipping a package out, and I was like, hey, this package isn't too big, and I'm just going to walk out to the front of the car, and I'm going to unplug it, so might as well just put it in the frunk. So I opened it from the app, sealed it there, took it to the UPS store, and just grabbed it out of the frunk. It was really easy. Didn't have to walk to the back of the car. You know, I was in the driver's seat, so it was easier to reach to the front. Unfortunately, it didn't auto open and close, but still it worked really well. And I was like, this is something I couldn't do before. Thank you, Tesla. I like my frunk. That's number 13. Number 14. Oh, exterior-wise, they've really hidden well the windshield wipers and the misters. On our car, there's like dedicated little black, what do you call them? Hoses, not hoses, but like exit points where the water squirts out if you're washing your windshield, and that just kind of complicates the design a bit, whereas the windshield wipers in the Tesla are really nicely integrated between the windshield and the hood. You can barely see them really for most of the time, and I like that they're hidden that well. Probably helps with aerodynamics. On my old car, the windshield wipers are wide out in the open, and they're not really well hidden, so I appreciate the elegance of how they hid the windshield wipers. Man, I'm taking too long. I got to keep going. Number 15, well-integrated cameras. So there's cameras all over the car, but I think they are so nicely hid away. They're not super distracting where they are. Like, they just put them in the little, what are they called? A and B? Not the side pillars. They hide the cameras there. They put them in the little black blinker triangles on the side of the car. They integrate them right behind the mirror, and very smartly, they make the windshield wiper go over the camera so that if something is covering your visuals, nozzle, thank you, Mike, that's the term I was looking for. The windshield wipers can clean off the cameras on the front. There's a camera in the back, and it hides that one really well. I love that the car is covered in cameras, and that's very helpful, but even better than that, they found a way to cleanly integrate them into the design. I've seen other cars out there that put cameras all over the car, but it's quite obvious where they are, and they're not hidden very well. The squirty thingy. CCS is USB-C all over again. Kind of, but USB-C is a good idea. The Tesla connector is what I'm in favor of. I think that's such a better look. I don't really miss having a I never had a bird's eye camera view, but I actually think most of the time those bird's eye cameras are just confusing because they distort depth, and the cameras try their best to make this bird's eye. I've had a very easy time parking it so far. Just using the side cameras and the little ultrasonic sensors is good enough for me. But so number 15 was that the cameras are well integrated. Number 16, the folding mirrors. So that's they're automatically fold back and forth. For one, that makes it when you're pulling into a tight space much easier, but also it's a good indication that the car is locked. And then when you come up to it, sometimes the mirrors will unfold. Actually, I think if I'm using the phone key, they stay folded up, but I like getting that extra confirmation, just that, all right, the car is like locked down, and my last car didn't have that. So I'm sorry, I'm going to keep comparing it to my last car. Some people say I shouldn't do that, but that's all I got. This is actually my third car. The Sonata was my second car. Model 3 is the third. That works perfectly. So I didn't have automatic folding mirrors. That makes it a lot easier for people to get by the car when you're parked in a tight space, which I have parked in several tight spaces since getting the car. So I appreciate that they fold back, and also letting you know that the car is locked is a good idea. Number 17, that brings me up to the iPhone as a key. This works extremely reliably for me. I've watched a lot of Tesla reviews over the years, and some people have said that, 1 out of 10 times it doesn't work for them. I don't know if it changed with the AMD Ryzen processor or if they put in better Bluetooth in the car or something, but this has literally always worked flawlessly for me. It always locks when I'm the appropriate distance away from the car, and every time I've walked up to the car, it's unlocked at the right time, even for other people. Even if I'm not the first one to the door, other people will walk up and open it, and the car just knows because my phone is there. That is an extremely underrated feature that doesn't get talked about enough. Maybe I love it so much because my key fob wasn't working with my old car. The battery wasn't dead. It's just the buttons got misaligned, and that was the only key fob we had. So I couldn't lock and unlock my Sonata remotely. Every time I wanted to lock it and unlock it, I would have to go to the driver's side door, because that's the only one that has a keyhole, and manually twist it twice or twist it once to lock it. So a lot of the times other people would get to the car before I did, and they're waiting. Drew, I want to get in the car, and I have to get the key out and unlock it the manual way. So the fact that now I just get to walk up to the car, it unlocks, walk away from the car, and it locks, feels so much nicer. It's just such a quality of life thing, just such a convenience to just be like, I guess I'm done with the car. I just walk away, and that's it. That's interesting. Freak Waka says iPhone almost never works properly for me. That's fascinating, because I've heard that from a lot of people, but it always works for me. I don't know what it is. Next car will be Model 4. Do you still look at the mirrors, or do you just look at the screen now when you do a turn? I think I saw your comment, and I'm trying now to not look at my mirrors. Definitely when I first got the car, I was using the mirrors a lot because that's just what I was used to. But ever since I've seen people say that, you can train yourself to just use the blind spot monitoring, it's a little bit hard because sometimes I want to see what's behind me, but I'm not signaling. I just want to see how close the car is behind me. So I use the rear view mirror, which for the most part works well, but like I said, the visibility out the back is not that great. So oftentimes I want to fall back on the side view the side view mirrors, so that I can see what's behind me. But yeah, I'm trying to rely more on the cameras, and I think I'm getting more comfortable with it. Neil Pitt super chatted. He says, do you have separate or shared Tesla accounts? So Tesla, because we wanted to register 2 people on the car, required us to have 2 separate accounts. Maybe I missed something, but they wouldn't let us have 2 people on one account. That just doesn't work. So my wife has her own Tesla account, and she has access to the car. She uses her phone as a key as well, and it works. So I love that the phone can be my key. That's super, super nice. Number 18, this is a big one. The app lets me cool the car remotely. I use that every day. I used it before I even got out to the car, because I know that with my MacBook, and of course the hot weather, I don't know how hot it is outside. Does it say? Oh, it says what the interior is. I'm using Tesla Theta right now, so I don't have the exterior temperature. If I go to the app, it probably tells me. It's 84 degrees outside, so it's not too hot yet, but it definitely, like every day around here, gets over 100 degrees. So the fact that before we get in the car, I can pre-cool it is extremely helpful. I think a lot of people were getting hung up on my point yesterday about how sometimes the AC isn't quite as cool as we'd like it to be. And they were claiming I was wrong or spreading misinformation. I was like, I read that in the owner's manual. I was literally reading through my owner's manual, and they said that sometimes the AC won't be super cold at first because it's prioritizing the battery. It's not like a deal breaker in my view. It's not like the air coming out of the AC is hot, it's still cold and it's still cooling you. It's just not like ice cold right away. And usually after a couple minutes, and the car gets moving, it will eventually start getting cold. It was a little thing that we noticed, so I thought I'd bring it up in the video, but I think some people were making it out to be like this major issue, like the AC is terrible at all times. And I'm like, no, if your car's in the shade, like in your garage, it's not going to be a problem. And if you can schedule the AC to turn on, which I can, that's a big selling point of the car to me, then it'll have time to cool down the cabin and you won't experience that initial warm up, what's it called? You won't experience that prep period where the AC is trying to get cold, but it's not quite cold yet. So most of the time, I'm able to anticipate that, all right, we're going to leave. We're going to get to the car in about 5 minutes. Let me start cooling it now. But there have been 2 or 3 circumstances where occasionally I'll go out to the car and sometimes we don't have time. Like we're leaving sooner than we thought. Like, oh, someone texted us that they need a ride, or, we need to go right now. So we go out to the car and we don't have time to pre-cool it because sometimes you're busy and you can't keep track of all these things all at once. So for the most part, I can keep track of it, but sometimes I don't. And it does have overheat protection. Let's see. You explained it wrong. Heat pump doesn't work like that. I don't know I'm trying to remember what I said. I thought I read somewhere that the heat pump might not necessarily cool down as quickly as older HVAC systems, but if I'm wrong on that, I apologize, but can you close the vent in the back to make it faster? Yes, you can. It's in the owner's manual. I don't know if the owner's manual itself specifies that the heat pump is the reason that sometimes it doesn't cool as quickly, but I thought I remember reading somewhere that it might be pertaining more with heat, but while the heat pump is more efficient, it's not necessarily as quick to change temperatures. You can also tell the car to keep the AC on if you're just going into a store real quick. Yes, and I have done that. I think that's another thing on the list. But I love being able to pre-cool the car. 90% of the time, I do that, and it works flawlessly, and I love it. 10% of the time, I get to the car because suddenly we have to go, or we got to the car sooner than we thought we'd get, and it didn't have much time to pre-cool. So where was that? No, that was number 18. Oh my God, I really got to get moving. Number 19, the charge limiter on the app. So a lot of these are app related, but it's something that I don't think people get to talk about enough, and something that you miss out on a lot of the time with non-Teslas is that the mobile apps are just not that good. They don't give you that much control, or they're not that well designed. The Tesla app is probably one of the most impressive third-party apps I've ever used on my phone, of any kind. Like, just the fact that you can control so much of your car from one single app. And they could easily spin off, the charging network into a separate app, or they could put Tesla insurance into a separate app, or they could put Tesla customer service into a different app. Apple does that. They put customer support somewhere else. And a lot of companies like to split up their apps to do lots of different things. And I applaud Tesla for making one singular app that does all this stuff. So number 19 is the charge limiter. It's so simple that there's just a little dot on your percentage, and you just scroll like as soon as you open the app. When it's plugged in, you just like, I want it to 70, now I want it to 100, and then within a couple seconds it updates and tells you exactly how long it'll take to charge. And I love it's just so intuitive, and it makes me want a charge limiter on everything. Like, I really, really want the charge limiter on my phone, on my MacBook. They just have these stupid optimized battery charging things, but they get it wrong a lot. Sometimes it charges to 100% when I don't want it to, or it keeps it at 80% when I don't want it to. And all of that could be alleviated if it just gave me a charge limiter. And, it makes sense that the car has that because it's a big battery pack and you're probably going to have it for a long time. So, a lot of people want to have control over what happens to that big a battery pack because it's probably the biggest battery you'll ever own. Where do you set your charge limiter most of the time? So the owner's manual says to charge the LFP Model 3, which is what I have, to at least once a week, 100%. So at the very minimum, like, basically because of the chemistry of lithium iron phosphate, the way I've heard it described, I apologize if I get it wrong. I'm not a flawless expert on everything, but I do try. I'll answer that question, Fizzwizzle. Your name makes me laugh so much. So basically, the charge limiter is great, but the voltage of the battery pack with LFP stays the same throughout its charge state. So whether it's at 100% or 5%, the voltage stays the same. Whereas Tesla can monitor a bit of a reduction in voltage with normal batteries like nickel-based cells with the 2170 cells or the 1865 cells. With those chemistries, it's very easy to monitor what the state of charge is because the voltage can decrease as you get lower. And because those don't have as good a cycle life, they're still lithium-based, just like lithium iron phosphate is lithium. That's what the L is. Those batteries age better when they're kept basically somewhere between 50 or 80%. So I did a study on this and found lots of research groups that have done lab testing with lithium iron phosphate. And they have said that, like, yes, the cycle life is very high. So that's why Tesla says, go ahead, charge it to 100% every day, because there probably isn't, there definitely is not much of a downside to charging it to full all the time. However, that does not mean that if the car is sitting for extended periods and not being driven, that leaving it at 100% is necessarily a good thing. So the reason Tesla tells you to charge it to 100% at least once a week is that lets the Tesla integrated software know when the car is fully charged, because once it stops accepting a charge, it knows it's 100%. So if you don't charge it to 100% at least once a week, it's not necessarily going to hurt the battery, but it potentially makes the range estimator and the state of charge, the percentage, a bit harder to know, because the voltage stays the same no matter what the percentage is. So it's like, you're probably at 80, you're probably at 90, I'm not exactly sure. So basically when you charge the battery up to 100%, it resets and goes, okay, that's a full charge. So your range estimate and your percentage will be more accurate if it gets to 100% weekly. But there are many days where sometimes we're not driving very far, or you're not driving at all, and to leave the battery at 100% for like days at a time, sure, it's probably not going to result in serious degradation, but it's not completely untrue that you might get better battery health if you don't charge it to 100% and leave it there for days at a time. So I'm leaving it because of this study group I paid attention to, because there were a lot of people saying, like, what should I do with my LFP Model 3 if I'm not driving it and I'm going to like leave it for like maybe months at a time? Do I still leave it at 100%? And the lab research groups that I read said that no, it's probably better at around 70% for long-term storage. So that's what my charge limit is set to on most days, is 70. But the owner's manual said get it to 100% at least once a week. So I'm doing twice a week to be safe. So there's sometimes where I'm just driving around town, or I'm driving to a friend's house. And on those days, I'm driving like maybe 10, 12 miles. I'm not going very far. 70% is fine. 70% is plenty. There's other days where, because we live in a rural area, you know, if we're going to a grocery store or we're visiting family or friends that are in a nearby town, on those days I'm driving more like 50 to 60 miles. So on those days, which there's usually like 2 or 3 a week that we end up driving maybe 40 or 50 miles, or 60, depending on how busy we are. On those days, I'll charge it up to 100% right before we leave. So typically, we know those days are coming, so I'll wake up in the morning and be like, okay, the car's at 70%, but around this time, we're going to head out, and we're going to be driving a bit further than, you know, the days we're just driving around town. So I charge it up to 100%, but I don't tend to leave it at 100% for long extended periods, which, based on what I've read, is the best thing for the battery health. I'm not super paranoid about it because I know LFP has a high cycle life. You probably shouldn't worry too much about it if you let your car sit. If you let your LFP Tesla sit at 100% for a couple days, I don't think it's really going to hurt it. I'm just one of those guys that's like, okay, if it takes like no effort on my part, all I got to do is use the very simple app. You just drag that little dot and put it to 70, 80. If that's all it takes, and it can preserve the battery health a little bit more, then I'll do it. Like, if that's all it takes, then I will do it. Let's see. After about the first 3 months, my car started charging 2% past whatever limit I set. If that starts happening to you, I'd be interested to know. Yeah, I've heard of that happening. I actually had it set to 70, and then it dropped to 69 this morning, which I thought was a little bit weird, because it is plugged in. Anytime the car is here, it's plugged in. I never just leave it unplugged, because the owner's manual says to always be charging, and when the car is finished charging, it will power like cabin protection, and if it goes through any software updates, or if it passively uses energy, I do have Sentry mode on. It will pull all of that power from the wall, not the battery pack. So that's better for your battery as well. You're the type of person that wants a charge limiter on an Apple Watch. Yeah, why not? If you don't want to deal with it, then just leave it as default and the watch can charge as is. But I could make my Apple Watch last longer if it had a charge limiter. I would love that. Tesla Model 3 has an emergency backdoor latch under the seal of the back door. I checked online and it literally says in the owner's manual it does not have one. A bunch of people kept telling me it does, but if you look it up, it just look up Model 3 rear door release, manual release. And basically all the results when you look it up is that the Model Y, the S, and the X have it, but the Model 3 does not. So I don't know what you want me to say. I don't think it does. Do you have a book owner's manual, or is it on-screen only? They gave me an on-screen one, but there is a paper manual in the glove box. But I was reading the digital one. I haven't read the paper one. Let's see. Where do you set your charge? Oh, so where do I set my charge limiter most of the time? 70%, unless I know I'm going to be driving a bit further. Then I'll charge it to 100% at least twice a week. Maybe more if I'm going further. I'm not even halfway through the list. Oh my God, you're right. So anyway, the charge limiter is great. That's number 19. Number 20, the app showing the interior temperature. That's something I didn't know it did. Mike in the Woods was asking if there's anything that surprised me that I didn't think about. I didn't realize that the app would tell you the exterior and interior temperature at any time. So sometimes if it's cooler outside and the car is hot on the inside, you can vent the windows straight from the app, which is really handy. And that kind of cools off the interior without using energy. And I just like knowing that, oh man, the car's really hot on the inside, and I can act on that instead of just not knowing, which I never knew with my old car. So anyway, interior temperature is great. Number 21 is that it lets me vent the windows. I guess I already said that one, so we can skip that. Number 22, the app shows the location of the car and the speed at all times, which I did know about, but it is honestly very helpful. Like, I wanted to know when my wife was driving the car at one point and I was working, and I wanted to kind of wrap up work or wrap up a live stream, and I wanted to see where she was. So I just checked the app and I could see her driving, and it actually says the speed in the app when you open it up. It's just like, yep, they're at 35, they're at 50. And I was like, whoa, that's so cool. And you open the map and you can see where they're driving. Even when my wife, I wanted to FaceTime her because I was house sitting for my grandparents. So I was at my grandma's house, but my wife was meeting someone at our house. So she was backing into the driveway, and the arrow on the map even goes backwards. Like, it knows the orientation of the car. So when you're looking at where your car is on a map, the little arrow to back into the driveway went in reverse. And I was like, wow, it's just a cool attention to detail that I thought was impressive. So I love that you can see the location and the speed at any time, and you can even limit the speed if you wanted to, if your kid was driving it or something. I don't have to worry about that for a while though. Stopping at item 50 might be ideal for this stream. Oh my God. I might have to start speed running some of these. I can go faster. I think I can go faster. So number 23, I can handle service through the app. That's another thing I love, is just, there was some work I wanted done on the driver's side rear window. I just take pictures, I contact them, I scheduled an appointment. There was an appointment available next day, which was really, really easy. So the fact that your service is just one little tab on the app is awesome. Number 24, I can also handle my insurance policy through the app. So I even signed up with Tesla Insurance through the app, and it's very customizable. They let you decide what your deductible is and put in your mileage and what you use the car for, what you're covered for bodily injury, property damage, liability. All of those controls are so much more intuitive and way, way better than any of the insurance calculators I've used at Geico, Progressive, anybody that we tried. Always had far more complicated quotes, and the Tesla insurance policy is month to month. You don't have to pay for 6 months at a time like we did with our last provider. So I love that you can handle all of that right through the app. Which brings me to 25, Tesla Insurance. Very transparent. They told me exactly what it would be, and they gave me a quote, and the credit card charge I got for it was exactly what they said it would be, which I can't always say the same about with Geico and Progressive. Oftentimes it's it's about this much, and then you get the bill and there's extra fees they didn't talk about, and they don't let you control the options as much. Thank you, Jay Phoenix. Model Y is the one with the rear manual latch. Model 3 doesn't have a rear manual release. Thank you. A bunch of people kept telling me it does, and what kills me about that is they keep saying, like, Drew didn't do his research, when in reality, the people saying you didn't do the research are the people that didn't do the research. There's so many levels of irony. But anyway, Tesla insurance is great so far. Thankfully, I haven't had to use it yet, but I'm happy with it. It was cheaper than we expected. Number 26, the charging stats. See how much you save. That's another option in the app, is there's just a tile where it says you can put in, it's so customizable. That's what I was amazed by with the mobile app. You put in what your kilowatt hour cost is at home, and it tells you how much it actually costs to charge your car. So our PG&E bill is obviously going to go up, I'm sure, which we were expecting. So, because our electricity use is going up, but it's nice to know exactly how much it's going up, because the app will tell you how much money it's costing for you to charge your car, and it will even apply supercharging. And right there from within the app, it calculates the average cost of gas in your state, and calculates how much you're saving on gas, which I think I can even show you guys right now. If I go to the charge stats tab, I'll refresh it here. So this isn't honestly entirely accurate, but it's still really cool data to see. Let me make sure you guys can see it here. So I've charged up about 140 kilowatt hours so far, which has cost me $41. My electricity is kind of expensive here. We're still on like the base fixed rate plan for PG&E, which means that no matter what time of the day you're using power, it's always 31 cents a kilowatt hour, which is very high. Like my parents who live in Washington, they pay 6 cents a kilowatt hour. So an EV would be way cheaper to drive there. But they do have a separate EV tier for PG&E that you can sign up for only if you prove that you own an EV, which we can do now. But the only reason we haven't switched over to it yet is we're just curious what it's going to cost with the normal plan. And also when you do the EV plan, they give you a lower rate, which I was looking online from other people, because what's confusing is PG&E does not tell you what the cost per kilowatt hour is on the off-peak times. They just say it's lower. But the difference is you then have to pay for on-peak times. And on-peak hours are basically between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. And that's actually usually a very hot time of the day, and we run our AC a lot. So we're a little bit concerned that if we go to the EV plan, they're going to charge us through the roof for the time we use our air conditioning during on-peak hours, which is where they charge a lot. Sure, we'll get a lower rate for when we charge the car, but the reason we're willing to wait is because once a couple months go by and it's not so hot, we'll probably stop using the air conditioning because it'll be cooler in the evenings. Once it's cooler and we have more cold weather, we won't use much power during on-peak hours, and then we could have a lower kilowatt hour rate for all the charge times for the car. So, but even with our high 31 cents a kilowatt hour rate, we've still saved $37, and I've just owned the car for about a week now. I picked it up a week ago. So in 1 week, we saved $37 on gas versus electric. You extrapolate that out, it's easily over $120 a month, easily. And once we switch to the lower rate plan in the cooler months of the year, it's really only like super hot for, hot to the point that we need to run the AC like from 4 to 9 o'clock. It's really only that for maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year. So I think the rest of the year we'd be comfortable just on the EV rate plan. I think PG&E might let you switch back and forth. So there's still some research to be done there. Need an automatic weekly full charge setting. That would be cool. But I don't really mind because the charge limiter is so simple. It's like you go in the app and you just swipe to 100. Boom. You're done. It takes like 2 seconds. I have to do the maths myself, but with my 500E ground-up designed battery EV, I've reached 2,000 pounds in 8 months. Wow, a ton! Fuel is exceptionally expensive here, though. Yeah, that's the other thing as to why this data is not entirely accurate is in the gas savings section, it says that the current calculation is based on an estimated gas cost of $5.72 in California. Where I live, you can get gas for much cheaper than that. I understand that that's the California average they're calculating, but there's a few gas stations that, because we live in a rural area, we're not in a major city, you typically get more cheaper rates. There's gas stations we go to that are like $4.70. So the gas savings may not be quite as high as they're claiming, but if it's $100 a month, that's still a win in my book. So if you factor that it may be 20% off with what we would be paying in gas, then yeah, it's still savings. It's still cheaper. Would I ever buy a uranium-powered car? No, I don't think I would. That sounds expensive to run. Okay, that was number 26. Number 27. This is something I've actually used a lot because I have the free 30 days of premium connectivity. I love being able to view the car's cameras remotely. So if I'm parked somewhere and I just want to see how the car is doing, I can tap a button and just look out from the side cameras or the back camera and just see if anybody's around the car, which I've seen other people checking out the car before from the remote cameras. And I just think that's super cool. Like, we were meeting up with some friends and I was like, and I can view the car's cameras, and I just opened it and it showed their car because our friend was parked right next to us. And they were like, oh, cool. Because we were at like, I forget, like a restaurant or something with our friends, and they saw their car and they were like, okay, it's good. It's all safe from my phone, which I thought was really, really cool. So the fact that, I don't know if there's any other car that's currently capable of doing that, but you can see the cameras of the car even if you're really far away from it. Like, I was at my grandparents' house and my wife had driven the car over to a friend's house, and I could see the car, like, where she parked, if it was close to any other cars, even though I was probably a good, like, maybe 15, 20 miles away from the car, which is amazing. Benjamin said, for me, the Model Y has made no difference on my electricity bill. I think my HVAC and the Tesla use roughly the same amount of power. Not the same story here, because we have a pretty crappy HVAC system, but I'm happy for you. I'm glad it didn't make a difference. But yeah, Live Sentry camera is amazing. I'm with you there. Let's see. What else? Oh, on that same subject, number 28, Sentry Mode. The fact that it records when people get around the car. Thankfully, it hasn't caught anything bad, but there's been times where people were looking in at the car and I can see the recordings, and I just feel a lot safer knowing that if someone was messing with the car would save that footage and I could view it and show it to insurance, or I could show it to the person, be like, hey, if I had a sketchy neighbor or something that was checking it out or coming up to the car, I could get footage of that. I think the cameras are 720p, so that's one slight gripe I have, is like, yeah, it'd be kind of nice if the cameras were higher resolution, especially when you can get 4K cameras on phones that are really, really cheap and small. They could easily make all these cameras 4K, but it would probably just make the FSD computer work extra hard, and it would take up more space, and they just don't want to deal with the higher read and write speeds right now. But yeah, the cameras are not particularly high quality, but there's not anything really close to that on non-Teslas, where you can view the cameras remotely, and I guess Rivian has Gear Guard, so they're starting to catch up, but the Rivian is like 3 times the price as this car. Maybe not 3, twice the price as this car. So I love Rivian, but Tesla's had Sentry Mode for longer, and I think Sentry Mode works a bit better. So Sentry Mode is great. Number 29, built-in dash cam as well. On that same subject, if something goes on the road, I can just tap a button and it records any other driving interaction, if someone was brake checking me or if something bad was going on. Most of the time you have to pay extra to get a dash cam in your car. Tesla has it built in by default. That's lovely. It makes me feel a lot safer. If something goes down, I'll have record of it and I can show that to prove that I was not in the wrong. Number 30, I love that the app lets you schedule charging ahead of time. So let's say if I was leaving really early in the morning and I wanted the car to have a full charge, I can schedule it to just be at 100% by the time I wake up. And that scheduled charging feature, I tried it. It works really well, and it's very simple and easy. Again, the app is insanely good. I don't think that gets talked about enough. If you go with a Bolt or you go with an ID4, yeah, you save some money and you probably get some more buttons and knobs if you don't like the minimalistic interior. But one huge win is just the fact that the app is so capable and you can do so much on that app. And the VW app or the Bolt app, you can do some things, but it's definitely a lot more clunky and it doesn't work as well. Based on the experiences I've seen in subreddits from those EVs. 31, I love how the car uses wall power when it can. Yeah, that's a big win in my book, is once it's finished charging, once it hits its charge limit, if the car's doing any other things like to keep the cabin interior cool or doing a software update, it's not pulling power from the battery anymore. Very smart, intelligent. I like that. That's number 31. Number 32 relates to what I'm doing right now. The seats. They're incredibly comfortable. I've been sitting here for well over an hour. I got in the car about 20 minutes before I went live. So I've been in here for about an hour and a half. I don't feel sore at all. I feel incredibly comfortable, much more comfortable than my old Sonata seats. And I've actually sat in this car and I edited the delivery day video right here. I can power it. I'll talk about that later, but basically it's just a perfect little home office setup because the seats are extremely comfortable, probably more comfortable than my office chair in my house. Plus, I haven't needed to use this yet because it's summertime, but they're heated, which I'll mention in a future point. But the seats are very comfortable. Number 33, I love the white interior. They've already, I've kind of not babied them that much. Like, I went for a mountain bike ride the other day and I had a lot of mud on my biking clothes, and I still got in the car right afterwards, and there's really not much dirt. They don't collect that much dirt, and if there is a little smudge or a little flake on them, we have the baby wipes. It wipes right off, and they still look really, really clean. Actually, what's funny is people, when they see the white interior, they're worried about, oh, it's going to get so dirty. The white seats are very easy to wipe down and to return to their original quality. What's actually more frustrating is the black parts of the car. The black little door panels and like the floor area that you have to step over when you're getting out, that collects a lot of dirt from your shoes, and that's what I find myself more worried about, is trying to clean the black siding and clean the black plastic on the bottom of the car where your feet are all the time. That's what's usually collecting dirt, not so much the white seats. So they look great. They make the accent of the interior pop a lot. So I love the white interior. I'm very happy we went for it. I think it improved our delivery timeline a little bit. Based on the subreddit, I was seeing most of the time white interiors were being prioritized over black interiors. And it looks great. I think it's much, much better. I was actually showing my sister-in-law the different Tesla interiors, and I showed her the white one, and I was like, so this is what ours is going to look like. And she was like, whoa, that looks really cool. And then I swiped to a different picture and showed her what a black interior looked like, and she was like, ew. And I was like, what? And I was like, she was like, that wood trim across the dash. She was not feeling it. Some people like it. I don't think it's that bad. The black interior is not bad by any means, but she was just like, that wood stretch across the dash just does not blend in with the rest of the car. They were like, that's supposed to be like a spaceship futuristic looking car. It shouldn't have wood paneling anywhere. And I was like, yeah, as the more you say it, I do really like that white streak across the front. And it makes the car feel a lot lighter on the inside, especially when you're driving around in the sun. And it looks fantastic. I think they did a great job with the white interior. 34, on that same subject, the interior design, so minimal, so clean. Some people talk about that as being devoid of design. I disagree. It's a design style. It's a style to not have a bunch of complexity, and I don't think that a good design requires complexity, dials and knobs and buttons. It's a personal preference thing. I don't expect everybody to like it, but I absolutely love just coming into a car that's not completely stuffed with a bunch of options and buttons that you maybe only use once or maybe hardly use ever, but it's always there and it's always taking up mental space to have those numbers and letters, and it's just such a clean interior design. One big display. I think that's probably my favorite thing about this car is just having a giant capable display. It's a touch interface and it can do so much. There's so many things that display is capable of doing. There's really no other car in this price bracket with a display that large. Pretty much, yeah, minimal design is still design. Exactly, Martingale. Some people say, like, I prefer a more stylized interior. This is a style. In fact, it's the best-selling car in the most populated state in the country. And I think a lot of people really like this style. And you can't argue with me on that when the wait times for Teslas are so long. I'm not saying everybody likes it. I'm just saying Teslas are often the most popular model of EV or any car in a lot of the markets they sell in. And there's clearly a huge wait time on them. So I think that says a lot that many people prefer the minimal, simplistic style. They think this looks good. It looks clean. And they love that there's not a bunch of complexity. So the only vehicle really I can think of with a bigger display functionally, I mean, I know the Lucid has like a giant display, and The Lyric, I think, has a giant display, or the Blazer EV has like a 17-inch display, but a lot of it is the speedometer, which is behind the steering wheel, which you can't touch or interact with anyway. I'm talking about like actual interactive display that you can touch and do stuff with. The only car that has a bigger display than this car is the Model S and X, which Tesla makes, and those are just the more premium markets, and those are 6-figure vehicles. So as far as 5-figure vehicles, this is basically the biggest display. No, I haven't found it unsafe. If anything, it's actually much easier to have a camera there for your blind spot, opposed to doing this, which is what I did in my old car, and trying to go back and forth like that, opposed to just driving like this. You can look forward, see what you're doing, look down, there's your blind spot, you're clear, okay, you're good. I find that much safer. So putting everything on the display, I don't find dangerous, no. The seats are excellent. Yes, I agree with you. Wait time has shrunk. Not in the U.S. Giga Shanghai is ramping up quickly, so they've shrunk down on wait times. But in the United States, no. I have friends that I've been keeping up with that have ordered their Model Y close to a year ago. Some of them over a year ago, and they're still waiting. Sam K says, I want my car to be completely overwhelming, just absolutely horrid to look at. Buttons everywhere, unlabeled switches. I want my car greebled. Beautiful. No, I actually think that labels are overrated in a lot of cars, because a lot of the time you need the labels when you first get it, but then after like a week of use, having the labels there are completely pointless because you know exactly where everything is. It's like, I don't need to have... Honestly, I know this is probably a bit of a stretch, maybe something not everybody's going to agree with. I don't even think we need the little reverse neutral drive icons or the park button. I don't think you need that on the gear stock. I think people will get the hang of the gear stocks after about a week. You know, you could put some more instructional videos, you know, like if you go on the big screen, you can show this is how you push down to go drive. But after a while, you're just using it. You're not looking at those icons anymore. It doesn't really serve a purpose. Neil Pitts, thank you for the super chat. Is it a $35,000 or $45,000 car in your opinion? Well, $45,000 is basically what I paid. I opted for the white interior, so it was technically $46,000 before taxes and fees and everything. After taxes and fees, it was basically $50,500. So it was an expensive car. I don't think it's overpriced because I love it, and I think that it's so capable, and it's just brought so much joy to our lives. And it's just made me so much more relaxed when driving, and it makes me so excited every time we get to drive somewhere. So, like, I'm very happy with it. So I don't regret paying what I paid. It would be nice if it was cheaper. Like, I don't think it would be a bad thing if they sold it for $35,000. Assuming they had the production capacity for it, I would say it's absolutely worth it. So I guess it could be either. Like, I understand why they're charging what they're charging for it, because there's so much demand. So I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Charge what people are willing to pay for it. But if there weren't enough people willing to pay for it and they were selling it for $35,000, I would still think it's a great deal. I honestly think, well, I think I'll tie into that in a future point. But anyway, number 34, giant display is excellent. I love the interior design. Number 35, the steering wheel design is also very good. I love how simple it is. It's not... Most modern day steering wheels have too many buttons, way too much complexity, and they all have icons and labels. I love that there's not a bunch of pointless labels, and it's just the scroll wheels are very basic, but they can do a lot. You know, you scroll up and down, you can side to side. The steering wheel just has this one seamless canvas around the whole thing. It's smaller than my old steering wheel, but I actually like that because it doesn't eat into your leg space too much. It feels very smooth. It's very comfortable. And it's very easy to turn. Like, it's just such a graceful... It's so graceful when you're turning on corners and stuff. It doesn't fight you very much, and it's just very graceful with how it turns. So I love the size of the steering wheel, and I love the look of it. I think it's a beautiful... as far as steering wheels goes, I still personally would prefer having a yoke, but I know I'm in the minority on that. My wife does not want a yoke, so even if they did make a Tesla with the yoke and I wanted it, she'd probably fight me on that and be like, no, don't make me drive with the yoke. So it's a good car for the both of us, because I'm not unhappy with the steering wheel. But I think it looks great. I'm just admiring it right now. Number 36, I kind of touched on this. The scroll wheels are very intuitive. The fact that you can adjust your following distance, and you can skip music, and you can speed up with adaptive cruise control, change the volume. They don't have a bunch of complicated, buttons all over them like a lot of other cars do. It's very simple. I use chill. I use chill acceleration and not sport. I don't use sport for anything. I think the car is plenty fast. In fact, when I first got it and I was accelerating with it, I thought it was still a little too fast for me. So I have everything set to chill. I have the accelerate. Like, I am not flooring this car. It's to this day, and I have no plans to. I have not done a 0 to 60, and I don't think I ever will. Silverfish says I'm the best YouTuber in the Tesla community in terms of interaction. Oh, thanks, man. That means a lot. Thank you. Harry says our life is too crazy and cluttered. I love when I get into my car and the simplistic design makes me relax. Yes, exactly. Where do I find the audio bits for the super chat? I think I made them a while ago. I think on YouTube I found them. Sport is the way. I don't like sport personally. I'm very happy with the way I have it configured. Sam says, does the car corner well? The one thing I hate about my SUV is how slow I have to go around corners because of high center of gravity. I talk about that later, but yes, basically to answer your question, it corners well. Number 37, car remembers profiles from phone. That's also very intelligent and very smart. When my wife gets in the car with her phone, it recognizes that it should switch to her driver's position that she has saved. That saves a lot of time, saves a lot of complexity. So thank you for doing that, Tesla. Oh my God. Number 38, the gear stocks are multifunctional. I love that they updated the gear stocks relative to the old design with the Model S where you kind of had 3. These are like, it selects your gear, and you can do autopilot, and you can do adaptive cruise control, and it's your headlight design, and it's your wiper design. It's just such a more like functional design to have gear stocks do more than one thing. Like, I think it's really smart that when you're at high speed, it acknowledges that, okay, he's probably not wanting to go in reverse, so we can use this gear stock for other features. Whereas in my car, cruise control, my old car, I forget this is my car. It still feels like I have to give it back or something. It's not actually mine. You have a separate set of buttons and controls for cruise control. You have your gear selector down here that only moves when you first put it in drive, and then it never moves again, and that eats into your storage space and gets in the way of your drinks and stuff. So I love having just storage space in the center console, and the gear stocks can do a bunch of stuff all on their own. Number 39, it changes to reverse very gracefully. That's something else I knew about, is that if you're at low speed, you can just throw it in reverse, and it'll just... It's not this big jarring... You got to get all the way down to 0 and then put it in reverse like my old car. It's very easy to go from forward to reverse. I love that. Sorry, I'm burning through a lot of time today. Number 40, I love one-pedal driving. It's so much easier to just let off the accelerator and let the car come to a stop. It feels like this is how driving should have been all along. It preserves my brake pads and stuff. So one-pedal driving, I got used to it immediately. I barely ever touch the brake pedal, so I'm absolutely in love. And when I took the car in for service the other day, I had to drive the Sonata again, and it made me feel so archaic. It felt so stupid that I had to tell the car to slow down, tell the car to speed up, and back and forth and back and forth. And I'm like, no, one-pedal driving is the way of the future. That's the way to go, and I love it on this car. Number 41, I kind of mentioned, I don't have to replace the brake pads nearly as frequently, possibly ever, just because I hardly use the brake pads. The regen is more efficient. Number 42, graceful acceleration. I love having chill mode when even when I'm on autopilot or cruise control, the car knows how to accelerate at a graceful speed so that it's not uncomfortable for the passengers, but you're still gaining at the right amount. I'm actually very impressed with that. Like, when a car gets out of the way and I have my cruise control speed set higher, it basically will consistently grow at 2 miles per hour per second, which is just enough for you to not really feel it. You don't feel like you're going faster, and yet you are at the same time, which I think is awesome. So well done with that. You can actually keep the accelerator slightly depressed and still change gears as long as it's 5 per hour or less. Yeah, I've done that. I don't know if I've done it with the accelerator depressed, but it's been great. I love one pedal driving. Interchangeable steering wheel, that would be interesting. I recently floored the long range dual motor with acceleration boost, and it was amazing. I've done it in Mike's car, and it's insanely fast, but it doesn't like, I don't like roller coasters. It doesn't make me happy to go that fast. I don't like, I'm uncomfortable basically when it happens. And I'm fine doing it like a couple times a year. I'll go visit Mike and do it in his car, but do I need to do it in my car and wear out my tires faster? No, thank you. I'm going to preserve my tires and try to make them last as long as possible, so I'm not doing any hard acceleration. I'm trying to accelerate as gracefully as possible. So graceful, so that's good. 43, the low center of gravity. This kind of answers Sam's question. It feels very planted on the road because all the weight is down in the bottom, so it corners very well. I'm still not really accelerating very hard on my turns because I have a safety score, and I'm trying to get the beta, so they can ding you if you turn too hard. So typically on turns, I'm going slower than I would normally go. But yes, before I had the safety score, it corners very, very well. So I'm happy about the turning performance. Number 44, it's very quiet, obviously. I love the fact that it basically makes no noise under a certain speed. When I'm just pulling out of the driveway, it's just like, oh, we're moving. That's it. You're used to this whole ignition ritual with the gas car that I've had for so long. You know, like you get in the car, you put your foot on brake, you turn the acceleration, you got to put it in gear, and there's this whole, all right, the car's on, it's moving. Whereas this, you're in it, it's not doing anything. You just put down the gear stock, you start moving, and it's just it's so quiet. I love quiet tech, and this is absolutely for a car of, you know, this size and this power, you would expect it to make a lot of noise. Obviously, when you're running the air conditioning, it can get pretty loud, but still not as loud as my gas car. 45. The AMD Ryzen chip they put in here is very fast and responsive. I'm still looking at the chat on the Tesla Theater display, which is great, and there's very little lag, which has been fantastic. So that was something I kind of noticed back when we rented the Model 3 a few years ago, and I messed around with the displays. It felt like it was a little bit behind my finger, and it wasn't quite as responsive as my Apple Tech. This feels very, very close. It's not quite as good, but it's just AMD Ryzen chip allows it to be, it'll age much better, I'm sure, thanks to that newer processor. Number 46, I'm using it right now. I love Tesla Theater. I watch more YouTube than any other streaming service, so the fact that when we're charging or when we're just hanging out in the car for whatever reason, I can just pull up a YouTube video and it plays, and it even supports 4K playback, which is impressive. It's absolutely wonderful to just have a media app that lets you play content. That's frankly one of the things I think I would miss the most if I ever bought a non-Tesla, is the fact that on those other EVs, you can't just pull up any streaming service and start watching content. You gotta wait for that update to come out or something, or it's the display on the other car is too small and it wouldn't be worth it. Number 47 kind of ties along with that. The sound system. Even though I bought the rear-wheel drive Model 3 and it has the partial premium interior, it still sounds great. It gets very loud. It's very well balanced. I've listened to the premium interior sound system, and I don't notice a big difference. It's really, I can't pick it up. I'm not a hardcore audiophile, but needless to say, sound system, well done. Very excellent. Gets plenty loud without peaking. The bass is wonderful. I don't think you should worry about the weakened sound system if you're getting a cheaper Tesla. If you're basically, this is the only Tesla they sell with partial premium interior. I don't notice the difference between premium and partial premium. Have I tried Light Show? Yes, Phoenix. I've actually used it probably 5 times in the past week. Number 48, the AC controls are on the screen. I actually prefer that to having the little vents. I sound weird, I know, but some people like having the little grid vents and stuff that you can fold and change, mix and match. I think it's way cooler to just have all of that baked into the display because it makes the dash look a lot cleaner. And also those fins can break as they did in my old car. So the fact that they're more hidden and less accessible means that the car will probably preserve them and not make them move more than they need to. So I actually prefer the AC controls being on the screen. And you can split them up the way you like, just with one finger instead of having to adjust multiple little grids. Point this at me, point this at me, point this at me. No, you just pull up HVAC and just tell it exactly where you want it to point and split it up if you want to. And it's very quickly. I loved it. Number 49, the built-in browser. I don't hear a lot of people talk about that, but it's kind of handy if your phone's doing something or someone's doing one thing on their phone to just be like, hey, let me look something up. Like if you just have a question and you want to Google something, or you want to look up the Tesla order page, which I've done before, right on the screen, can pull up the Rivian order page, pull up the Aptera order page. If you're talking about EVs, and you can tell people like, hey, the rear passenger seats in the Model 3 don't have a manual override latch. You know, you can Google those things right on the car's display, and I don't think that many other EVs have a browser, so I love that that's built in. Number 50, it's very simple to activate voice commands. You can open the charge port hole by asking it to open a certain crevice. Just say, open charge hole, whatever. And you can tell it to route you to certain places. And I love that it's not its own separate dedicated button. You just hold down on the scroll wheel and it starts listening. That's very easy. My wife's used it as well. So I love the voice command simplicity is great. 51, fart mode. I've gotten so many laughs out of fart mode from family members and friends. They can't believe that something my friend Dan said when he got in the car and I started showing the fart mode and everything. He was like, I can't believe an adult made this, like adult human beings had to code that software into the car just so that it could fart. And it just makes people laugh. I know it sounds juvenile and childish, but I hate to break it to you guys. Farts are funny. Farts still make me laugh. I'm 24 years old, and farts are funny. And I don't know of any other car on the road that has fart mode outside of Tesla. Where are you going to get that? And it's brought countless laughs and smiles, and so many people are just laughing every time. And especially if you're driving somewhere and you kind of forget that it's on and you turn on fart on turn signal, you'll just be driving and talking about life, and you're like, yeah, I think you should do that, or maybe you could try this, and you're just having a normal conversation, and then you turn on your blinker, and it just everyone kind of forgets that fart mode was there because you were driving for a while without it, and it just makes everybody laugh. So I love fart mode. As stupid as it is, it's great. Number 52, arcade has made evenings fun. Yeah, so a couple nights ago, my sister-in-law and my wife and me just all sat in the car and just decided to play with all of the different arcade games. And we had a lot of fun. My wife was playing solitaire, and my sister-in-law was using the sketch pad and everything. And I was playing the, what's it called? It's kind of like, I want to call it Demo Rising, because that's what it, but basically it's like a top-down view of a spaceship, and you shoot other things. So we just had a whole evening where, like, for 2 or 3 hours, we just all sat in the car and played video games together. And I thought it was like, this is just such a special, like, fun product if everyone can get in the car and just have a fun time like this. How many cars can you say just like a group of friends just get in it, not to go anywhere, just to hang out in, just because there's fun stuff to do on the display, and you also get an HVAC system that probably works better than the one in the house, so that probably helps. So I love arcade. Number 53, the glove box doesn't have a manual latch. Some people don't like that. Maybe it's Space Invaders, something like that. But it adds an extra level of security. If someone broke through the window, they wouldn't be able to open the glove box. Skyforce Reloaded. Thank you. That's the name of the game. So I like that the glove box is secured and locked. And I think the interior looks a lot cleaner to not have a latch there. So some people disagree with me on that, but I look at it as a security improvement if you want to lock things in there. So I'm a fan of the glove box only being accessible through the display. Plus, there's something just futuristic and kind of cool about being able to tap something on a display and it opens something physically. And that happens a lot with Teslas. You just like tap here and then something physically reacts to that virtual tap. I think something about that just feels magical and cool. Number 54, this is something I'm using right now. The USB-C ports in the center console are 36 watts. They're fairly high powered, which can charge a lot of MacBooks. If I'm not live streaming, it can charge my MacBook Pro, which has an M1 Max chip in it, which is very fast and very capable. So I can be in here for hours and hours and hours and not have to worry about my MacBook battery dying because I can get 36 watts through the USB-C port. If I'm live streaming, it goes down a little bit, but I've been live for almost an hour and a half and I'm at 98% and I started at 100%. So if I can go 2% in an hour and a half, I can basically go all day. It's no problem. If I'm not live streaming, the percentage will go up. I know that because I did it yesterday. Number 55, the wireless chargers have this really nice fabric on them, and they have little grooves to keep your phone mostly put in the right place, and it's just such an intuitive position to just drop your phone in the car, starts wirelessly charging, and it's built in by default. You didn't have to pay extra for that like you used to. So I love the wireless chargers. Number 56, there's tons of storage space in the center console. I've even got accessories to help. Like I have a tray here that you can put coins in. I'll dive into that in a future video. But you can lift up this armrest thing, and there's a bunch of stuff, a bunch of room in the little opening door that kind of closes like a garage door. I love the updated center console, and there's even a light in there so you can see inside. I love that it's not cluttered with any controls. You just have pure storage and phone charging right in between the seats, which is wonderful. Number 57. Oh, there's USB-C ports in the back too. So if someone's sitting in the back and they want to charge their phone, I don't think they're 36 watts back here. I think they're either 10 or 15, but still you get a decent amount of wattage, and Type-C is the best port. I'm all in favor of USB-C. So having some for the rear seat passengers is great. Another point about the USB-C ports that I love, they're not labeled. There's so many they're not stupid. They're just something that the pet peeve of mine is like, if you know what a USB-C port is, you don't need to put the little USB symbol and then put an icon around it that says charging or USB. They do that on so many EVs these days, non-Teslas especially. It's like anywhere they put a USB-C port, they have to cover it with labels and put the little USB icon. You don't need the icon. I love that how in the Tesla, it's just a port. There's no label. You know what it is. You know what it does. That's it. It's just a port. And it's a little detail, but it's one I appreciate about the minimalistic interiors, that the USB-C ports are just there. They don't need to be labeled. Number 58. This sounds like a basic thing, but it's something our old car didn't have. There's air conditioning that vents to the back. That was really annoying on a lot of hot drives. If there were people in the back of our car and they wanted to get cool, we basically had to try our best to route the air conditioning past us to get to the back, whereas in the Tesla, there's AC vents back there, which is great. Number 59, Autopilot. Super duper relaxing, especially on the freeway, but even off the freeway, it's just nice to have the car doing all of those little micro adjustments for you, slowing down, speeding up. Obviously, fantastic feature. That's a very obvious one, so it made the list. Love Autopilot. Definitely the fact that it can work anywhere with 2 lines makes it far more applicable and useful to me than any other driver assistance feature that needs to be pre-mapped or that needs to be looked over. And that's those kinds of things. Oh my gosh, I've been going for far too long. Autopilot's relaxing. Number 60, no on or off mode for cruise control. So that's something else my old car has. You had to turn on the cruise control mode and then press another button to actually activate it. Now it just knows, hey, the little gray steering wheel icon appears. Boom, boom, you can get going. 61, adaptive cruise control means barely using of pedals. Oh yeah, that even if you're not using autopilot, adaptive cruise control is really handy, because if you nudge, if you want to change lanes and you turn off auto steer by moving the steering wheel, you still have cruise control on, so you don't have to grab the accelerator or grab the brake to get ahead of someone. Your feet barely do anything. So I think, oh yeah, that's 61, is that your feet barely have to touch the pedals when you're on the freeway because of adaptive cruise control. Number 62, this is kind of an add-on, but enhanced autopilot compatibility. So even though this car, I haven't paid for full self-driving yet, I like knowing that I could subscribe for a month, or maybe one day if I strike it rich. My old car had sucky cruise control. It was not adaptive. So you'd have to turn it off if someone was going slow, and you had to push the button like 10 times to get it to work. A lot of the times, even if you were pushing the button, it wouldn't work. Anyway, in the future, this car can go do more and more autonomously. Basically, I have the full self-driving computer built in, so if I pay for full self-driving in the future in any way, shape, or form, the car is capable of doing what I've seen FSD Beta do, which is really impressive. And while I don't believe it'll ever become a robo-taxi, I do think there's a chance we could get level 3 autonomous driving in this car, where basically it could drive all by itself, and I wouldn't have to pay attention. I would just have to legally be in the driver's seat in case it needed someone to take over. Exactly, J Phoenix. You can disengage auto steer and tax stays on, which is great. So the fact that I can pay extra and access more autonomy features in this car is wonderful. 63, the safety measures. It has advanced airbags, and Tesla Vision is able to detect if a collision is imminent, and it will tighten the seat belts. And also the cameras are able to slow down in an emergency and stop the car if you needed to. So the fact that it's a very safe vehicle with good airbags and a huge crumple zone that would keep you safe in a collision, you can't put a price on safety. So I'm very grateful that we're driving a safer car. 64, blind spot cameras show up on the screen. That makes visibility much easier, and you don't have to turn your head around like this. Blind spot cameras are great. Okay, I gotta go lightning round now. Number 65, the backup camera is massive, so it's easy to reverse, and when you're going in backup, the camera takes up so much of the display, you can see everything behind you. Other cars have backup cameras, but they usually don't display it so large, and that's another perk of the huge display. Number 66, I love that there's no ignition process, there's no start button. A lot of EVs still freaking have start buttons for no reason. The fact that you just get in the car and it's running makes so much more sense. Number 67, you have pin to drive. So I've heard of stories of people using what is it called? RF or NFC emulators, where they could pick up the signal that you use to unlock and lock your car. And if someone tried to unlock the car and get inside it, you can add pin to drive. So there's probably some other way to hack pin to drive. I mean, nothing's unhackable, but it adds an extra layer of security so that even if someone had the key card and they got in the car, they wouldn't be able to go anywhere, which I appreciate. Also, the key card, number 68. I love that there's not a physical key that's like metal or anything. It's just like, it looks like a credit card. It easily fits in your wallet, works as a great backup if your phone is dead or something's unavailable. And I also think it's just so futuristic to just tap a key card against the car and boom, it unlocks, and you don't have to add another key to our endless growing key ring. I would love a world where we didn't have key rings at all. Number 69, hey, supercharging network. That's the best charging network, in my opinion, in the United States. There's so many supercharging stations, and there's usually they usually have pretty good uptime. And this brings me up to number 70 as well. The car routes you to those superchargers on big trips, so you don't have to actually actively plan. But the great thing about this car is that it's compatible with the best charging network, and also I could easily buy an adapter and take this car to any Electrify America station and charge it via CCS. So basically all major charge stations, assuming I have the right adapters, I can charge this car with, which just, I have not had any range anxiety. I haven't gone on a road trip yet, but in my driving around town and stuff and, you know, using the car, I've never been worried about being able to find a charger because I know that there's so many options I can use from. So supercharging access is probably one of Tesla's biggest advantages. Number 71, another big pro is that it preconditions the battery when you're on your way to a supercharger. So if it knows I'm going to a supercharger, it preps, heats up the battery so that it's ready to accept the faster charge speed. Number 72, the charging speed of this vehicle is 170 kilowatts. That's plenty fast for me. It's not the fastest charging Tesla, but you have to keep in mind that even though it's not charging at 250 kilowatts, this still only has a 62 kilowatt hour battery pack. So with 62 kilowatt hours, even 170 kilowatts charges you up really, really fast. So I'll do videos on the charging curves and stuff. I'm sure it doesn't stay at 170 kilowatts forever and it goes down a bit, but I just like knowing that the car can quick charge, and I've plugged in a better route planner, and it says, you know, most of the time my supercharging stops are going to be like 15 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe occasionally 20 minutes, and I appreciate how quick it works. And supercharging is just so simple. You just plug in and it knows what credit card to bill and everything. There's not a stupid screen and a credit card to swipe and anything. I don't want to deal with all that. I love that you can just plug into a supercharger, it starts charging. And because the car is so efficient, that brings me to number 73. This is the most efficient car on the market right now. It has a miles per gallon equivalent of around 135 or 132, I think. And the efficiency is great. Someone was asking earlier, I think I can check what my efficiency's at. I'm at 240 watt hours per mile on average for the past 30 miles. I did a lot of highway driving before we left, but 230 watt hours per mile if we go on the last 15. So it just sips power, very efficient. The aerodynamics help with that, and the single motor helps with that. The regenerative braking, it's just consumes so little power. And the fact that it only has a 62 kilowatt hour battery pack and it still has an EPA estimated range of 270 miles, that's incredible. I know you don't actually get that, but still, just a battery pack that small with a range that high is unheard of. It's very hard to find any other EV with efficiency that good. But that brings me up to another point. Number 74, the energy consumption graph is so useful. Oftentimes, if I'm driving somewhere where I don't need directions, I just pull up the energy graph because I want to see how much energy the car is using. And I think it makes it very simple and easy to understand. Other EVs don't make it that simple to understand how much you're consuming and what your watt hours per mile are and stuff. So I love that feature. Number 75, charging from home. It actually opens up so much more potential, because there were so many times with the gas car where it was like, okay, we need to go here, but before we go there, we have to get gas. So we got to leave earlier because we couldn't gas up from home. So it was like, we got to add this to another errand. Whereas when we're driving the Tesla, we know that we can charge from home. So like we'll leave the house at 70 or 100% every time. We don't have to also go and stop at a charge station. Or when you're coming back from a road trip, you know that once you get home, you can instantly plug in and start charging. You don't have to stop at a gas station before you get home because you're worried about the gas tank being too low, which was a big concern of ours with the gas car. Is like, okay, we could make it home, but we're going to be on empty. And then when we get home, we're going to have to drive to the gas station again. We could run out. So charging from home is so much better. Number 76, it's wonderful to not go to gas stations. They're busy around here. There's always lines where we are. Especially if you want to get the cheaper gas, you got to wait in line. They're stinky. The card readers are annoying, and you got to push all these buttons, and you got to try not to spill gas on yourself. And I don't miss going to the gas station at all. Number 77, we have a NEMA 1450 outlet installed. And because this car is so efficient, it gains a lot of percentage back over that outlet. Roughly, it's not an exact science, but we get about 10% of charge an hour. So basically, if you want to go from 70% to 100%, it only takes 3 hours. And if you were at 0, you could get to 100% overnight, basically. You could get a full charge in 10 hours. It's actually a little bit faster than that, but roughly the number is easier in my head to just say 10% an hour. It's probably more like 13% an hour. Number 78, the ordering experience online is fantastic. You don't have to select a specific dealer or anything. You don't have to haggle prices with dealer markups. No, it tells you exactly what you're going to pay. And I'm grateful that we put down a deposit. And even though the price of the Model 3 went up after we ordered it, Tesla honored the price that we agreed for on the website, which we can't say the same thing about with a lot of other EVs that have taken money for a certain price and then changed it before you took delivery. That sucks, and I'm grateful that we agreed to the price that we paid for. So ordering online was fantastic, and that's the only way I want to buy a car now. I don't want to buy a car any other way. 79, I love not having oil changes, smog checks. Some states got rid of smog checks. We still have smog checks here. And there's no transmission failure to worry about. Pretty much my first car I had was a 2000 Ford Ranger. The only reason I'm not driving that still today is, well, for one, we got the Tesla. Second of all is because the head gasket blew and then the transmission went out. And there's so many issues that come from gas car transmissions. My best friend Ross needed a ride to do his time-lapse footage because his car was in the shop, and his car was in the shop for transmission reasons. So, I don't have to worry about all that anymore. It just feels so much nicer not having to think about, when's the next oil change or when's the next smog check. Actually, because we still own the Sonata, we do have to think about when we're going to get the next smog check, which I think is due this year. Number 80, the delivery experience was pretty straightforward. Basically, you get the text that it's ready to pick up. You go there, you hit accept delivery on the app. The car unlocks. The key cards are already in it for you. It's just so simple and intuitive. You get your VIN on the app, and you just drive there, and you just get in the car. You don't really even have to talk to anybody, which is awesome. The fact that you can buy a car and not talk to anyone is fantastic. I hate social interaction with strangers. I just want to get in the car and drive, and that's what we did, which was great. Number 81, it's awesome to use the AC while parked, so dog mode and camp mode and everything. The fact that I'm using it right now, I don't have to have an engine running, but I can still keep the HVAC running. I can still keep myself cool. It's very comfortable in here, even though it's over 90 degrees outside now. Jeez. The car feels great, and I don't have to be running a big, inefficient gas engine. So that's number 81. Number 82, over-the-air software updates. The fact that the car improves over time. Honestly, I haven't gotten a software update available yet. It says checking for updates, and it says I'm up to date right now, but I'm not convinced I'm on the latest update because I've seen some settings that other people have that I don't. But still, the fact that I have software update preference set to advanced, by the way. The fact that a car can gain features and gain functionality, including self-driving features, just over the air, and it just connects to the Wi-Fi, and it has cellular and everything. updating software updates are a good thing, and the fact that other EVs are still struggling to get that working, and oftentimes you have to drive to the dealership to get a software update, that's ridiculous. Number 83, the headlights. So even though they haven't updated yet to be adaptive, they're still super bright, even the low beams. I hardly ever need the high beams in the first place because you can see so incredibly clearly, and they go very, very far without blinding other people coming towards you. So I love the headlights, night and day difference compared to my old car. Number 84, they finally switched the 12-volt battery to lithium-ion instead of lead-acid. So the lithium battery for the 12-volt that they use now should age better. Very grateful for that because my friend Randy has been having issues with his battery because when he bought his Model 3, they were still using the lead-acid 12-volt battery, which is basically the same chemistry they use for my gas car. It's a 12-volt lead-acid. We actually just had to replace it a couple weeks ago because it died on us, and we were in Oregon, and the car wouldn't start. So I love that they updated the chemistry. I don't know if there's any other 12-volt batteries in non-Teslas that are lithium-ion instead of lead-acid. I don't know how common that is. But on the subject of chemistry, number 85, this is the only lithium iron phosphate battery vehicle in the United States right now. There's plans. Ford said they're going to start doing it, and I'm sure VW is going to start doing it. But as of right now, the only way, see someone's asking in the chat, Sad Seti says, how do you get the LFP battery? You have to buy the Model 3 rear-wheel drive. At this point, that's the only way to get one. In the future, I'm sure LFP will become the norm, and I think it will find its way into basically every major EV segment. But as of right now, the car I'm in currently, this is the only way. This is the only one you can get. And you can charge it to 100% daily, and it has a high cycle life, so it should last longer. So I'm very happy about that chemistry. Number 86, the smooth suspension. Even on bumps and potholes and stuff, it's a very smooth ride. Feels very comfortable, very relaxing. And I think that's partly because of the 18-inch Aero wheels. Number 87, the external speaker is helpful for pedestrian noise. And also I love that the honk when you lock the car is not super loud. When I locked my old car, when the key fob was working, it would lock, but then you would get this boom, and it was really loud. It was kind of jarring and annoying. With this car, it's just a little bup, bup. It's not too loud, very gentle. So I love the external speaker. Plus for like boombox mode and fart mode and stuff, it's nice to have a speaker on the outside. Number 88, this is something I wasn't quite aware of until I got the car. If the car is locked, the charge port is also locked. So if an unregistered person comes up to the car and they don't have the phone key on them, they can't even unplug it, which actually makes me feel better about the charging equipment we have here. Like, even if someone tried to get in the car, they wouldn't be able to go anywhere because it's plugged in, and the charge port is locked. So that adds an extra layer of security. No one's gonna come unplug your car if your current car is locked. So I appreciate the charge port locking. Number 89. This sounds like a simple thing, but the screen actually switches between light mode and dark mode depending on the time of day. It seems obvious. Like, of course, yeah, it should do that. But believe it or not, I've been in other people's cars that don't do that, and it kills me. Or they just don't even have a dark mode in the first place. They have a display, but it's like bright white. The brightness is turned up all the way, and even driving around at night, you have this giant glaring, I don't remember whose car it was, but I just remember not too long ago being in someone else's car, and the screen was super duper bright, and it was not adjusting with the nighttime feature. So the fact that Tesla knows how to set the brightness and dark mode and light mode, that's a great feature. Okay, we're almost done. Number 90, Mars mode. The fact that you can cover up the maps. For one, that looks kind of cool, but also for someone like me who's making content about the car, that's amazing for privacy reasons. I don't want to show you guys where I live. I don't want to dox myself. And if I'm driving somewhere and I don't want people really to see that much, I just turn on Mars mode and you can't see where I am as easily. So for live streaming or for recording videos, that's a great privacy feature. Number 91, the light show. Yeah, it's hilarious to see the car like dance and the headlights are flickering and the trunk opens up and the charge port door is flapping back and forth. I've done that with so many people because they get a real kick out of it. And even the charging indicator on the charge port door is constantly changing colors. So the light show is just a great crowd pleaser, and a lot of people love it. What happens if you try to drive while still plugged in? Nothing. It won't go. It'll say that you're charging. It won't let you. So there's no way to drive away with the cable plugged in. It has to be unplugged. Number 92. So this car is actually fairly small, and I'm listing this as something I like. It doesn't take up that much space. It fits in our garage here very easily, but yet on the inside, it doesn't feel like you're compromising on much. You still have a lot of room. Headroom is fine. Legroom is great. You don't feel like you're condensed or claustrophobic or anything. The windshield actually goes really far forward compared to our old car, even though it has an overall smaller footprint than the Sonata does. It still feels bigger, still has a huge amount of storage space in the trunk, plus the frunk. So I applaud Tesla for making good use of space on having a small car that still doesn't compromise on anything. It doesn't seem like a compact car. You know, sometimes when people want a smaller car, they have to put up with, I don't know, some kind of Chevy Bolt looking, shorter. Not that Chevy Bolt is bad looking, but, sometimes shorter, smaller cars look ugly. And I think the Model 3 looks gorgeous and is still compact and small. Number 93, the ultrasonic sensors. It has the little warnings when you're backing into a place. It tells you like, all right, you're 22 inches, 20 inches, 15 inches, and it tells you when to stop. I've used that a lot when parking. Very useful. Appreciate those sensors. Number 94, the fact that now with Model 3s, all the seats are heated and you don't have to pay extra to unlock them, or you don't have to pay a subscription like BMW. Just all the seats are heated. You don't have to pay extra to unlock. That is great. Not going to use it in the summertime, but in the wintertime, I'm sure we'll appreciate it. Number 95, they switched to the dual pane windows, which improves the road noise. The road noise is very quiet in this car, and that's partly in thanks to the dual pane glass they've put on these, which is awesome. Number 96, substantially cheaper than any other Tesla. Now, especially because they've gotten rid of they won't let you order the Model 3 long range anymore. If you don't buy this car, you basically have to spend at least 65 grand or more to get a Tesla. This is the only way to get a Tesla for under $60,000, like after taxes and fees and everything. Model Y is still starting at 66 grand. Model S and X are six-figure vehicles, which is out of the question for most of us. And the Model 3, thankfully, still has this rear-wheel drive option starting at around $47,000. So as much as I, in my last video, complained about how the pricing, it is kind of high and it's gone up a lot and I'd like it to be lower, I also still have to acknowledge that if you really just want a Tesla, and I understand that because I'm in that same boat, you want the software, you want the over-the-air updates, you want Autopilot, you want supercharging, you want the phone app. I think that's a huge advantage Tesla has over everybody else. The phone app is so capable. If you want all that out of your EV and you're on a budget, this is by far the best thing you could get. I wish we still had that standard range Model Y, but yeah, it's not there. Not even the 4680 Model Y is being made anymore. Number 97, the ease of settings and configuration. This is something I don't see people brought up a lot, but the settings app on the car, you just press the car icon and it's very nicely organized. Controls, pedals and steering, charging, autopilot. It's very intuitive. Other cars have weird settings menus that look like they were designed 20 years ago. Very clunky from what I've seen on VW and on Ford. And this just feels like it was designed this year instead of all the settings and configurations. Like if I want to change driver's mode, lights mode, autopilot settings, charging settings, it's very easy to control all that off of the display. It actually feels like an operating system and not a crappy Linux plugin that someone thought of in 2 seconds like every other car. Number 98, the seatbelt chime is not annoying. Most cars, if you're in the seat and it starts moving and you're not buckled in, they have this annoying ding, 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 ding. It's this really annoying sound. The Tesla's just a little like boom, 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 boom. It almost sounds like a remix is about to begin. I love just the quiet, elegant way of, hey, you should put your seatbelt on, please. I love how you can't turn the sounds off entirely, which is what I would want, but the sounds that are there are very pleasant. They're not too jarring when they're not forward collision warnings. If it's a forward collision warning, then it gets pretty angry, and I hate that sound. Number 99, I love the free charging stations. There's a few places we found that let you charge for free for a couple hours, and we've utilized that, and literally, you will never find something like that with gas. Like, someone's just giving out free gasoline. Like, no, that doesn't happen. But with this car already, we've stopped at a few places that just let you charge for free. And that's amazing. Just free electrons driving around. Didn't cost you anything. That's awesome. So that's number 99. Last one, kind of a cheesy answer, but number 100, I just love talking about the car. I love reading your guys' comments and answering your guys' questions. I'm sorry I got to get going here. I've gone on way longer than I expected to. But I've had a lot of fun reviewing the car and driving it around the past week. And I love telling people, I love answering questions about it. I try not to brag, so I don't bring it up unless people ask. But when I go places and people want to talk about it, I'm very happy to answer any and all questions and talk about things I like and don't like. So number 100 is you guys, basically, the community. I love being able to dive into ownership experience, especially when sometimes EV news can be kind of dry. There's not necessarily a bunch of things going on in the EV world to talk about right now. So the fact that now this channel can start covering the ownership experience as well as news, is awesome. So I'm very happy with the community and all the conversations we're having. I'm sure you're salty, Alpha. How much confidence do you have when packing into a space? Do you find ultrasonics and lane line projection help? Yeah, I feel very confident with it. Oh, and hey, Samuel, thank you for supporting the channel. Thank you for supercharging. Appreciate that very much. Oh yeah, it's a heated steering wheel. 101 things, I forgot. In the wintertime, if I want the steering wheel to heat up, I can heat up the steering wheel. 101 things I love about my Tesla. I wish we could add LFP batteries to older Teslas. Yeah, I want that to happen, but I don't think it will. I'm pretty sure Tesla will just replace your battery pack with whatever you got it with, which that chemistry will likely improve with time. So if you replace your battery pack in 20 years with newer 2170 cells, they'll probably have longer range. Have fun with the car. I dream about it since forever, but it's too expensive for me in Europe. Yeah, I hear you. Hopefully Giga Berlin helps with that. But anyway, I really want to thank all of you for your support and for sticking around for this very long stream. But before we go, one last shout out to our executive and enhanced Patreon members, Joshua Vinnick, Dennis P., from the Best Cell Phone Plans podcast, Dr. Mark Choi, who is a dentist in the Woodland area, Bennett Williams, Joshua Levitsky, Robert Brindle, Matt S., Alex Ding, all of you guys for your extra support. Thank you so, so much. I've had a lot of fun writing this list and telling you guys everything I love. Hope you all have an excellent rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.